Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. So we're just going to give a little about, let's say, 7 minutes. So we start exactly by 4:40, so others can join in and gain from this webinar. Thank you very much for coming in on time. We really do appreciate. We look forward to a very fruitful section. So please, if you have all your questions, kindly jot them down. Our speakers are going to be tackling them as soon as possible. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming in on time. I appreciate it.
At risk youth in three different local governments living in Lagos. We're able to equip and enlighten them with the necessary skills to make a honest living.
Yeah, first of all, what made me go into cybercrime is that it's from the peer group actually. Me and my friends, we do chill out together, they do some of these stores then. They were making money from it, then I was like, okay bro, how are you guys making money from this stuff then? They told me more about it, then I started from the dating part, yeah, whereby you use Facebook, Instagram, you get clients like in a sense you act like a woman or you act like a guy. So mostly what we usually do in the dating part is like we don't want to hook up to be precise because the clients they'll be like, yeah, you're a cute lady, we get new pictures for them. So they will be like they'll be almost like they'll be like Congo and then they send text messages, we chat, then we just what we usually do is that we usually take gift cards from them. So that's the mainly source of payments whereby we used to get money from them. This program like it gives like a second chance actually. At the end of the dangers this cybercrime have caused to people, like it leads to death, it leads to trauma, and all this ain't good for people. And that's why I really stopped.
I'm happy about the platform because it has, opened my eyes to the world of cybersecurity, where I don't actually have to involve in cybercrime to be able to have an impact in my community.
Education is our best weapon. We're making a safer community by teaching detection and prevention. For the intervention, we have four focal sessions. For instance, we have the safe space discussion, we have the resilience building sessions, the digital skills training sessions, and the movie screening. For the resilience building sessions, we're able to invite experts from different walks of life. We've invited lawyers from the Federal Ministry of Justice to teach cyber laws and dangers and the punishments available in the laws of Nigeria. We've also invited clinical psychologists to have mental health sessions with the beneficiaries. We have also held critical thinking and problem-solving sessions and so many other sessions that involved experts. Then for the movie screening, we've played movies that showcase the adverse effects of cyber crimes in the society to the beneficiaries.
My take on cybercrime is that in my own community where I came from, people see it as a norms, like a way of surviving and to make ends meet. But after I've joined this program, I've come to realize a lot of things about cybercrime. And cyberbullying that you mentioned is under cybercrime. And it is what we should not get ourselves involved in because of different consequences.
My name is Moses Joshua. I'm the Executive Director of Cybersecurity Education Initiative. The reason for this intervention is actually to combat cybercrime among the youth in Nigeria, especially the communities that are marked as the hot zones of cybercrime activities in the country.
I want to especially thank the UK government and our funding partner, Tide International,
for making this possible and for trusting us to do this. For Clean Foundation and other partners, special thanks to you, because without your support, this wouldn't be possible. And we can see that we are not just stopping here. We are taking this intervention even further by training some of these beneficiaries with digital skills, so we can provide an alternative pathway for them instead of getting involved in cyber crime activities. And at the end of the day, the message is clear. Skill speaks louder than cyber crime.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for taking our time to be part of today's webinar. My name is Oluwatobi. I'm the co-founder of Cybersecurity Education Initiative, and it's a pleasure to have each and every one of you here today. So you're welcome to our webinar series. And just a little brief about CISED before I hand over to my host, Amina Allison. So Cybersecurity Education Initiative is a non-for-profit organization that seeks to address the prevalent issue of cybercrime in Nigeria and also promotes digital literacy, digital inclusion, digital diplomacy in Nigeria as well as in Africa as a whole. So we do this through various initiatives. That's just one of them you have been able to watch right now, which is called the BIRAC. So we have several initiatives whereby we used to promote our goals and our mission that we hope to achieve. And one of the very key things we hope to do is also build capacity as capacity development in every ramification. So that's why we're having this webinar series to do whereby we want to demystify, we want to crack down on the Nigeria Data Protection Act. We're bringing in experts that are very renowned in the field, that have experience in doing this, to be able to answer some of our questions, to be able to give us the bits and pieces of the NDPA. All right, so without wasting much of our time, I'm just going to hand over to the host of today and our program manager here at SciSen in person of Amina Allison. Please, a round of applause, a virtual round of applause for Amina Allison. Amina Allison, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Toby. Can you see me and can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you. It's nice to have you here today.
Same here. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm so happy to see everyone here. And I promise you, we're going to be having a lot of fun, learning, actually, learning, fun, and learning. Yeah. So you're very much welcome to this timely panel discussion on cracking the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023 compliance for licensing and audit. You agree with me that this is a trending topic in Nigeria right now. Yeah. I mean, on the 20th of June 2024, Paradigm Initiative, a Pan-African social enterprise, reported a breach. Yeah, you heard that the data of Nigerians were being sold for as low as 100 naira. I mean, it's so funny. But then, as soon as it was discovered, the website was brought down, but not without casualties, because it is reported that over 600,000 people had visited the website. So you could imagine what had happened. Well, we're here today to talk about this. And well, if you're following the news as well, you see that the National Identity Management Commission had denied that there was any compromise on the data of Nigerians, and also they also said that they did not authorize any website to sell the data of Nigerians. Now, whether this is true or not, but the issue is, and the truth is, that there has been a breach, a prevalence of data breach in Nigeria over the years. And last year, fortunately enough, the federal government enacted a law, that is the Data Protection Act 2023. And this has brought the much needed legal framework for data privacy in Nigeria. And well, this is relatively a new law, yeah, because it was just enacted last year. And we have so many organizations that have been dappling, right? They have been having issues with complying with this law, and that's why we're here today. We are here to demystify the law, to decode it, to understand it very well, right? Especially as it relates to licensing and auditing. And of course, my Oga has already said that we have professionals here. Now, these are not just any kind of professionals, these are legal professionals who have not just the knowledge and expertise, but here with us to help us understand the Data Protection Act. And well, I wouldn't be wasting our time. I'll just go straight to introduce our panelists. So I'll be reading their bio. So I just want you to sit back and relax and understand where they are coming from. And also, I want you to get your writing materials as well, because we're going to be learning a lot here. We're going to be learning a lot, I promise you. So my first panelist that I'll be introducing is Mrs. Chisom. And Mrs. Chisom is the managing solicitor of AAN Practice. She's a legal professional. I've already told you that. and she has over a decade of active legal practice in diverse areas, including regulatory compliance and data privacy. As the managing solicitor of a thriving law firm, that is the AAN practice, she caters to the regulatory needs of both multinational and indigenous companies. Chisom recently concluded her second master's degree in international law and human rights at the University of Tartu, specializing in privacy and cybersecurity. Chisom holds several certifications that underscore her expertise. She's a certified information privacy professional, CompShare Security Plus certified, and has a certified in cybersecurity certification by ISC too. Additionally, she is a proficient security awareness trainer, equipping organizations and associations with the necessary skills to navigate the complex cybersecurity landscape. Her career is marked by a blend of rigorous academic pursuits and practical legal experience, making her a highly respected figure in her profession. Chisom's dedication to her field and her ability to address the intricate regulatory needs of her clients makes her has made her a leading expert in her domain. Please, a round of applause for our first panelist. I just want to see our virtual clapping hands, please. Thank you. Thank you. You're very welcome, Ma. Can we see you?
Hello, Amina. It's
You're very
nice to be
much
in the panel today.
I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for
I'm glad
coming.
to be here too to share.
Thank you for coming. All right, I'll just move next to our second panelist, and he's here with us as well. His name is Oyindolapo Olusesi. He's the founder of Mustard. Now, Oyindolapo is also the lead legal services and data protection officer at Cora, a Pan-African payment company that enables local and global businesses to sell, build, and scale with bespoke payment solutions. As a data protection, privacy, and information security management systems professional, Dolapo has an extensive background advising startups on setting up data protection compliance systems, carrying out data protection impact assessments, and ensuring compliance with relevant data protection laws and regulations, including the GDPR, CCPA, and the NDPA. He's certified as a certified information privacy professional Europe and holds the lead auditor information security management systems 27001 certification. He has worked with startups across Africa, Europe, and North America on issues relating to regulatory compliance, data protection, licensing, corporate governance, and general startup advisory. Besides law, Oyindolapo has a keen interest in writing, teaching, traveling. I'm not seeing hands, please. All right, Dolapo, can we see you as well? Can we meet you here?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're very much welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Does that mean we can't see you? All right. Okay. Okay, no problem.
Oh,
So
I'm
we'll
sorry.
just be going.
Sorry. So I actually had an engagement that kept me out later than usual. So I'm currently in my car. I just had to take this call in my car. Apologies for that.
Okay, no problem at all. No problem. As long as we can hear you. I mean, that's what we're here for, to hear you. All right, we'll just quickly go into why we're here without much ado, because we're not going to be wasting much time here. We're going to be learning, but as fast as possible. And we'll just go straight to the crux of why we're here. And I'll be starting with our first panelist, Mrs. Chisom. And yeah, so we have different people from different backgrounds here, right? Where you're legal professionals, I mean, you know the law and all that, but we want to just have a brief background of everything. Yeah. And we'll be starting with the Data Protection Act. Please, can you give us an overview of the Act and also the roles of the Data Protection Commission?
So the data, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's great. So the data protection regulation, or the Data Protection Act currently now, it was a regulation prior to becoming an act in 2023, simply seeks to provide for the protection of data, whether by automated means or not. And it also seeks to ensure that there are effective ways set in place, technical measures put in place by organizations that hold data, usually the data controller or the data processor, to ensure that they have technical means to protect the data that they hold. It also seeks to ensure that data that are collected by these data controllers or data processors are reduced to the barest minimum. The Act also ensures that data subjects, that is you and I, whose data are being held, are aware of their rights. It just to enlighten people that they have rights to that the controllers or the processors owe them a duty, first of all, to protect their data. Then secondly, that they also have the data subjects themselves have certain rights that they can exercise pursuant to the Data Protection Act. And these rights are basically the right of access, the right to rectify. Right of access means that whenever you need your information, you can get access to it. The right to rectification, if you see that your information is not correct or not up to date, you can ask the data controller or the data processor to rectify or correct it. You also have the right to be forgotten. That means that where the information that is held by the data controller or the data processor is no longer important, you can ask the data controller or the data processor to delete it. We also have the right to data portability. That means if one data processor or data controller is in custody of your data, you have the right to ask them to give it to another data controller or data processor, and they are duty bound to ensure that these rights are protected. Also, the Data Protection Act also seeks to ensure that data controllers do not ask for information that they do not need. That means there's data minimization. You collect what you need and what you can handle. Those information that you're collecting, that you have effective ways of protecting them. It also seeks to ensure that in the event of any data breach, that there is a means or a mode of communicating that there is a breach, that is notifying the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. And then there is also a need to notify data subjects that their data is out in the public, and also give them or tell them how to ensure that this breach does not affect them by telling them what to do. It probably could be a change your password. It could be was an apology for the data breach, and steps that may be taken going forward. The Data Protection Act also seeks to ensure that there is maximum security of data subjects, right? And with reference to the commission is like the enforcer. it seeks the essence of the commission is that it's there to ensure that the provisions of the Data Protection Act is efficiently enforced. For instance, it is the it is the commission that is responsible for investigating any data breaches. They are responsible for conducting investigation. They are responsible for well, holding data controllers and data processors accountable. That means they are responsible for imposing fines or penalties where there are data breaches, and of course, they also liaise with licensing, with auditing of firms and industries, which we'll talk about later in this conversation. And they also ensure that our data are safe by implementing the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Briefly, that's what the Nigerian Data Protection Act is all about, and the role or responsibilities of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission plays within the data protection ecosystem. And that's it, Amina.
Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, I think that was wholesome. We already know what the Data Protection Act. That was like a detailed response. Thank you very much, Ma. All right. This next question is to Dolapo. Dolapo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So this has to do with licensing and registration. Now, Section 44 of the Data Protection Act mandates that data protection controllers and data processors have to be registered. And there's a way it states in the law. It says that the data protection controllers and data processors of major importance have to be registered. Now, I just want you to help us understand who are data controllers and who are data processors. And after you answer that, please help us understand what the act means by of major importance. Thank you.
All right, yes. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. So hi everyone, thanks again for having me. I'll just speak to who a data controller and a data processor is. And in a nutshell, okay, so let me first of all give the technical definition. So when you say data controller, you mean the entity or person that determines the means and purpose of processing a data, right? What that means is that the data controller is the entity or person that decides what a personal data will be used for. And then the data controller is also the person or entity that decides how the data processor should process the data. Long story away, what it means is that when you're trying to sign up on a platform and you are trying to input your contact details, some people call it KYC information. The entity that is collecting that information is essentially a data controller, because they are the one that will tell you first the kind of information that they need. That might have been mandated by law or regulation, but at the end of the day, they have to comply with that. So they have to decide that. Then they also decide if they are going to be processing it through someone. Say, for example, they need to do an identity verification. So they need to send it to an identity verification platform. They controller does. Now, a data processor, as you would have guessed from my definition, is the entity or person that receives instructions about how to, why to, with which tool, and for what purpose to process a collected personal information. What that means is that when a data controller collects information, the entity that is processing the information on behalf of the data controller is the data processor. So the data controller will typically give you all of the information that the data processor needs, the data processor, so that the processor can carry out its function. Now, sometimes you can be both a controller and a processor. Sometimes it can be a joint controller with somebody else, or joint processor, or sub processor of somebody else. But I think that at the end, I think that the short explanation should explain.
Okay, I think we lost the lapo, or is it my network? Toby, can you confirm?
Yeah, I think we lost the Lapo there. Right.
Okay, all right. Okay. While we wait for him to be back, I think Mrs. Chisom can just answer the question. He has already answered the first part of the question. He has made us to understand that a data controller is someone who collects the data and decides what it is used for. Okay, he's here already. I think he can continue.
Sorry, I don't know. I was speaking. I didn't know that I was cut off. So I'll just take it from maybe the last 5 seconds, so last 10 seconds. Hopefully, I wasn't cut off longer than that. I
So
rounded off my definition of data controller and processor already. Did you get that part? And I was going to get to defining controller and processor of major importance. Okay, cool. So,
Yes.
all right, perfect. Now, a data controller of major importance, I was saying, is one of the innovations of the NDPA that was passed to law last year. And the idea is to distinguish between a regular controller and processor and controllers and processors that are deemed to have major importance to the ecosystem. Now, what is major importance? According to by the nature of the way the act was drafted, is left to the discretion of the NDPC that was created by the act. Right, the NDPC is the regulator in charge of the NDPA, as has been rightfully mentioned earlier. So the NDPC has now, by virtue of his guidance notice, defined or enumerated on who will be a data controller and processor of major importance. There are several factors to consider, right? But what also happens is that three there are three distinctions or three categories, right? So you have major processor, you have ultra high level, extra high level, and then you have ordinary high level. The and that is according to their risk level, right? So the ordinary high, the extra high, and then you have the ultra high. Those are like the level. So what then happens is, as compliance officers in several organizations, you then need to look at examine the different factors that have been outlined in the guidance notice, and then use that to determine what level you fall into. Now, what happens is that if you are the level that you fall into would also determine the requirements for your registration, and also determines the fee that you pay. I think the people in the ultra high level pay 250K, and I think the ordinary level pay 10,000, and the extra level pay 100,000. So something like that. But yeah, there are also like countries that fall into like several categories. So for example, if you are a bank, right, banks are considered as ultra high level. So that means that you need to meet the maximum possible compliance requirements for even amongst the categories of controllers and processors of major importance. Right. So if you're an insurance company, you're a telecoms company, that is, you're an MTN, for example, you are an oil and gas company, social media, and all of that. All of those fall under controllers and processors of major importance. Now there are also, and then you then go to like extra high, you have like microfinance companies and all of that. But in spite of these, there are also other factors that you may want to consider to determine your risk level, right? So the kind of data that you also process is something that you also want to take into consideration. So for example, you are a mortgage bank, right? For instance, and you are categorized under extra high level, right? But you process data that are of significant importance or high risk. Say, for example, you process a preponderance of sensitive personal data, right? In that case, right, the right compliance structure to adopt would be for an ultra high level. But I think that just places things into context. So whilst the Act has granted the NDPC the discretion to determine what the major controllers and processes of major importance are, the Commission has now gone ahead to define this and then further subdivide them into three. So you then have ultra high, extra high, and ordinary level. And then, so just looking at the categories and the kind of data that you process would help to understand which actual category you fall under. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, perfectly well. I mean, now we understand who a data controller is. I don't need to restate that, yeah, and a data processor. And also he stated that the data controllers and data processors of major importance are being categorized into three, right? And the NDPC has the discretion to determine who falls under based on their risk. Yeah, we have the ultra high, the ordinary level, and the extra high level. So thank you very much, Dolapo, for that. That was really very comprehensible. Thank you very much. Well, I'm still on to you, so don't go anywhere. I hope you're still here with us.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so yes, so the particular section that is cited here concerning the data controllers and the data processors is section 14 here, and it is the one that is talking about the requirements for the registration. Now, we want to know, what are these requirements? What procedures do you need to follow as a data controller or data processor to get licensed, to get registered?
Yeah, the process is actually quite straightforward. The first, and I think the most difficult part of it, is determining which which category you fall under, right? Which category you fall under. So, but once you determine that, you reach out to your DPCO, that's your Data Protection Compliance Organization, to help you register on the NDPC portal. So they would handle the procedure for you. And I think the
Okay.
deadline for registration is 30th of, oh, that's actually today.
Okay. Okay. A follow-up to that. Yeah, you mentioned the Data Protection Compliance Organization. Now, as an entity, I've known my categorization, for instance, and I want to register as a data controller or a data processor. How do I know my Data Protection Compliance Organization?
Yeah, so typically what happens is that every organization should have a DPCO, right? And your DPCO is the one that would help you with every organization that processes personal data, which I imagine in this time and age is every organization, right? So you should have a DPCO, and your DPCO is the one that would manage your annual audit filing with the NDPC. So it's just a function of, you most likely would, except you're a very new organization, if you are not, you most likely would already have a relationship with an existing DPCO. And typically as well, what ideally happens is that it is your DPCO that would advise on the category that you fall under. So once that is done, they handle the process. They ask you the necessary questions, and then help you with registering with the NDPC.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. All right. I will just move on to Mrs. Chisom. Are you there? Okay, all right, thank you. So we've talked about data controllers and data processors of major importance. What if I have an organization and I've checked the categories, I don't belong there? Is there anything required of me as regards to data protection?
Well, basically, every organization falls under a certain criteria, just like my colleague has mentioned, there are different strata for licensing. So every organization, if you do not belong to the ultra high, you belong to the extra high or the regular. So with that said, anyway, if you're to get licensed under the NDPA, of course, it's not something that you just walk in. There are DPCOs, and these DPCOs are listed in the NDPC website. So you can actually, if you do not have one already, you can actually just select one from the website and get in touch. They have their emails, they have their contact addresses, and again, Section 32 of the NDPA mandates organizations to have DPO, that's data protection officers. And so if you have your data protection officer who is a lawyer, or you have a law firm or an IT company, these are companies that are that are allowed under the Act to get licensed as DPCO. So if you have any of those contacts, you can also be able to liaise with them to get your licensing. And for that, I think the audit, the data protection officer as well, which is a mandatory requirement under the NDPA, should also be able to advise the company appropriately on data protection regulations. The Act provides that a DPO, it should be knowledgeable enough in data protection, and well, if possible. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, my screen seems to have gone frozen for a bit. Okay, so and also have certain certifications to be able to adequately function in that capacity. So whether you fall, you definitely, as an organization, you definitely fall under one category of data controller or data processor. You fall under one category, and so you also have to adhere to the provisions of the NDPA. I hope that addresses the question.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Actually, my next question was going to be on data protection officers, and I'm glad that you mentioned that already. So, data protection officers, yeah, the Act actually provides, rightly so, in Section 32, that organizations should have data protection officers. Now, what we want to understand is it every organization, like now I'm working with Cybersecurity Education Initiative, do we need to have a data protection officer? And let's say a small business enterprise too, do they also need to have a data protection officer?
I'll just take a minute and read the provisions of section 32. It's not mandatory that every organization will have a data protection officer, but organizations of major importance are mandated to have data protection officers. But of course, it is usually very advisable, and it's part of a point of concern to me that even some MDAs, because when we're talking about the provisions of the NDPA, it's not applicable to only organizations. It's applicable to government agencies as well. And of course, with the information on the Nigerian information and no, sorry, you just talked about it earlier, the NIMC, then NIMC data breach that you talked about. It's surprising that some of these MDAs also do not have data protection officers, which is concerning to me. So every organization doesn't have to be, but if it's an organization of major concern, then they are mandated by Section 32 to have data protection officers who may be employees, or they could actually just contract it out to data protection compliance organizations that can handle their data protection needs. So I don't know if that answers your question. Hello, Amina.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud.
Oh, okay. I think it was my network also. All right. So thank you very much for that. We understand that, okay, the data protection officers, right, is the data controllers of major importance that are supposed to have the data protection officers. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. So I will just move to Oyindolapo. Dolapo, are you there?
If
All right. So this question is about auditing. Now, the regulation, now this is NDPR, right, not NDPA, because the NDPA does not really provide the processes or procedures for auditing, but then it is provided for in the NDPR, and by section 64 of the NDPA, it's preserves the NDPR, right? So the NDPR is still subsisting. So we just want to know, concerning auditing, what are the criteria that are required for auditing for organizations?
all right, thanks.
Dolapo, are you there?
So I am.
Right.
So sorry, I was speaking. I didn't know I was muted. So under the NDPR, the regime is that if you process sensitive data, or you process up to 2,000, 2,000 data of 2,000 personal data, then you will need to carry out an audit. But practically, what happens is that every company that processes personal data is best to carry out a compliance audit every year. And here's the reason: it doesn't matter if you process the data of one person or 5 persons or one people. The moment you have a breach of personal data that involves just one person or half a person, if there's anything like that, then you can be held liable. So carrying out the audits through your DPCOs, of course, helps you to prevent such a thing from happening. Sorry, just give me a second. All
All
right.
right.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. So that's the first thing to sort out, whether or not you need to carry out the audits at the end stroke the beginning of the year. Once that is sorted and you've ascertained that you need to carry out the audits, then you need to reach out to your DPCO, which, as has been rightly said by Mr. Chisom, you can find them either on the website of the NDPC, or you can reach out to, maybe a sister organization or something. You can always find them out. Once you have that, is assuming you do not have a relationship with a DPCO already. Once you engage the service of a DPCO, they will then typically send you a questionnaire to fill. When you fill the questionnaire, then you provide them access to the documentation that you claim to have, which would include your privacy policy, your privacy notice, your encryption policy, password change policy, clear desk policy, and all those other privacy related policies that you need to have. And then they also confirm whether you have a DPO, whether you have a privacy team, what is the reporting obligation of your DPO, how free or independent is your DPO, and all of that. So they ascertain all of those things and they collate your responses and carry out their assessment. So once that is done, they will then fill in your reports on the NDPC website. And once that has been submitted, at the moment, what happens is that once they submit the responses to the NDPC website portal, you then, after like a few days, I think, you get a badge saying that you have completed your NDPC audits for the particular year in review. So that's essentially how the process is from start to finish.
Oh, okay. So that's like certification, right? To certify that you're in compliance with the law. Yeah. So yes, I have a follow-up question. You kind of answered it, but I would like you to elaborate. So I think this is yearly, right? The DPCOs submit compliance audit reports every year, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so what is contained in this report?
Okay, so what happens at the moment is that there is a portal where DPCOs fill in your responses. So what a lot of DPCOs have done is to extract those questions into an Excel questionnaire or a Word, just a questionnaire, right, that they send to you, and then send your responses. So when they are speaking to you, what they are trying to gather are evidence that what you've said is true. So for example, a question can be that, do you obtain consent? If yes, do you provide clear, transparent information to your data subjects before you obtain consent from them? If you say yes, then the DPCO has an obligation to ascertain that through, so for example, checking your privacy notice, and then checking to confirm that your privacy notice is actually hosted on your website, right? And if it is an in-app process, they maybe also want to check if there is a consent notice on the particular part where you're collecting that particular data. That's one example. So if you say, do you also collect cookies? If yes, do you have a cookies notice? Do you have a cookies policy? You also say yes. They check your website and say, okay, is there a cookies policy there? Is it transparent enough? Does it contain all of the necessary information? Are you obtaining implied consent or actually getting express consent, explicit consent? So those are like things that they would ascertain. Once they are done with that questionnaire, what they then do is they transfer your responses to the portal, to the NDPC through the portal. Now, once they are done with that, there is no report that is generated. But what just happens is that they've submitted, after a while, they get a badge and then they send it to you saying that Amina Allison's company 2023 NDPC audit company check, and that's it.
Okay, beautiful. That was so detailed. I feel like I can already do it myself. Thank you very much. So yeah, still challenges that organizations face for the NDPA and NDPA. As well.
Sorry, was the question for me? I can't hear you.
Are you, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Amina, can you hear me? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I
Yes,
can hear
yes.
you.
Sorry.
All right, go ahead, Amina.
Hello, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you, Amina. Go ahead. Yeah, network's kind of shaking up though. Are you there? All right. So before Amina gets back, I'll just ask Madam Chisom this question. Thank you very much, Dolako, for those valuable insights. And in regards to the audit by organizations, Mrs. Chisom, are you there? So I would like to throw this question to you. Um, what are some of the common challenges that these organizations seeking to be NDPR compliance and for licensing and audits, what are some of those challenges that they face, and how can we address some of those challenges for them to become compliant? I want to even focus more on, let's say, startups or SMEs, organizations that are just coming up that might not have a very, say, let me say, very strong legal team. So, what are some of the challenges they are facing, and how can we address some of those challenges?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think the basic challenge that the organizations would face with meeting the requirements for audit is documentation. And when I say documentation, yeah, I mean putting together their, for instance, their policies. And for their privacy policy, do you have a privacy policy? What are the contents of your privacy policy? Do you have the privacy notice? What are the what are the contents of your privacy notice? Then, of course, your cookies policy. Your how do you obtain consent? Of course, we all know that with marketing, there has to be express consent. It can't be implied. So, how do you obtain consent? Is it express, particularly with marketing or advertising products? How do you obtain those consents? Then, of course, your documentation, incorporation documentation, are they in order? Because recently the chairman of the commission was saying that they are planning a synergy with the Corporate Affairs Commission and the other sister organizations as well. So your incorporation documents, are they in order? These are checklists that have to be ticked for you to meet this the standard for audit. So if where these organizations have a hard time putting together this information, it's going to be quite well, tumultuous for them to meet the audit requirements. So I think the most important challenge they will have is their documentation. Well, financial is also another challenge, but then that is not the big bone to chew is your documentation basically. Every other one is a challenge that can always be met. I think that's documentation is the ultimate one. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that said explanation. Documentation is very, very quite important. And like you mentioned, that some of the challenges some of these organizations uh, undergo or face. I don't know if Amina Allison is back. Amina, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Please, thank you for
All right,
holding the phone.
great.
Thank you. Okay, so I think you asked about challenges, yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. So I'll just move on to our next question here. So, all right, this is for Dolapo actually. Dolapo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so what are some examples of successful initiatives of the NDPC, or even while they were NDPB, right? What are some initiatives or case studies that organizations can learn from?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question? I saw the
Okay,
last part.
I said, are there some examples, yeah, that organizations can learn from, like, let's say, initiatives that the NDPC have done, or even while they were NDPB?
Okay, that's a tough question, and it's tough because the NDPC operates at a different level, um, separate from the level that organizations operate. They are regulators, so I'm not sure that organizations can particularly copy whatever it is that they've done. However, I think that in terms of laudable initiatives for them, I think first of all, seeing the coming into life of the act itself is like something that is particularly laudable. We all know that for the longest, right, the only thing that we had was NDPA 2019, which is a subsidiary legislation, as it were. Then so getting the act itself is like something really good. I thought that the hackathon, the privacy hackathon that the NDPC had earlier this year was also something really good. I happen to be a mentor to some of the teams that participated at the event, and I think it was good. I think, well, in terms of something that companies can copy or learn from, maybe that is one of it. So, hackathon is something that can be utilized in like different forms. One of which is to figure out, so you can have like ethical hack practice, hack exercise. So in this case, what they are hacking, they are not trying to hack into your system. You don't need to call you don't need to call people who professional hackers. You can actually hack your processes, right? In the sense that one can try to test if your content management process makes sense. One can try to test how you manage your records of processing activity. One can try to check what your data is like, that is your data subject access request or data subject deletion request. Those are some of the things that you can bring together a team of privacy enthusiasts, and then try to see, just let them play around your system, see if your system is solid enough to be able to comply with both the NDPA and international best practices. So yeah, maybe that is something that I think in terms of what the commission has done that companies can learn from. Maybe that will be something that I'll be putting forward. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, good initiatives there. I mean, hackathons and all that. Thank you very much. So, this next question is for Mrs. Chisom. Mrs. Chisom, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we'd just like to know what are some legal consequences of not complying with the NDPA?
Well, I think first on the list would be payment of fines and penalties. Section 49, I think, of the NDPA provides for payment of fines for higher for the higher trenches, 10 million or 2% of your global revenue for the preceding financial year, and then for the standard level, it's 2 million or 2% of your global revenue for the preceding year. That would be one consequence. Another one is that you may be liable to a civil suit. And that means that a data subject can institute an action against you for any loss or injury that they suffered due to the data breach. Another consequence is that there could be criminal liability. For instance, where the commission concludes its investigation and finds that you breached some certain provisions, then it can probably impose fines or sanctions, and those sanctions remain unpaid. The commission can now institute a criminal action against you. And of course, there's also a provision for vicarious liability, where even the officers of an organization, that's principal officers of an organization, may be held personally liable for the data breach or actions or injury or loss suffered due to the data breach, and the officers may be liable to imprisonment for a period of 1 year or less. So there is fines or penalties, there is a civil liability, there's a criminal liability. It's the commission is also empowered to seize or conduct searches within your premises in the course of its investigation. So from a legal perspective, these are some of the consequences. But of course, we know that there is also the reputational damage, which is a very big one. And then, of course, sometimes, okay, there is also the possibility for the commission to seal up your business premises. And of course, that will cost your organization a huge financial loss. And then probably, of course, is a restriction on in the operations of your organization as well. So these are some of the consequences based on the provisions of the NDPA. Yeah.
Wow, they are quite huge. I mean, I don't want to default in any way. Not me personally, an organization, right? You wouldn't want to default in any way because imagine paying 2% of your annual revenue. Not only that, there are other things that could be attached. I mean, it's quite huge.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. So yes, the next question is also for you. So how does the NDPA compliance intersect with other related laws and regulations? I mean, both internationally and domestically. Talking about GDPR, for instance, or the PCI DSS, or even the Cyber Crimes Prohibition Prevention Act of Nigeria.
Well, I hope I understand that question correctly. You're asking how it relates or how it intersects with that's the NDPA, how it relates with any of the okay. So some of the NDPA and of course the GDPR bears very close resemblance. Some of the provisions of the NDPA mirrors the provisions of the GDPR. So compliance with the NDPA would also ultimately constitute compliance to certain provisions of the GDPR. For instance, Section 34 of the NDPA provides for data subject rights. Section 12 to 23, I think, of the GDPR provides for data subject rights as well. So if you comply with Section 34 of the NDPA, you're automatically complying with the provision of sections 12 to 23 of the GDPR. Again, of course, the principles for processing are similar. I would say a substantial part of the NDPA was lifted or mirrors the GDPR. So with compliance with the NDPA would automatically reflect a compliance to the GDPR. We have also Section 28 that talks about data impact assessment, and Section 35, Article 35 of the GDPR that also talks about data impact assessment, where where you're processing high risk data. With the payments card industry data security standards, we also have provisions such as the data security under Section 39 of the NDPA that outlines that organizations should have technical measures to protect their personal data. Similar provision is contained in the PCI DSS regulation for protection of cardholder data. And of course, there is also the encryption, access control, and security testing, which is contained in the PCI DSS, which ultimately reflects in Section 39 that deals with security, integrity, and confidentiality of information. Then under the Cyber Crime Act, we also have similar provisions. For instance, Section 39, like I have just said, talked about security, integrity, and confidentiality of information. While under Section 6 of the Cybercrime Act, organizations are required to implement technical measures to safeguard their system and their network, which simply implies that if an organization that is an independent service provider, complies with the Section 39 of the NDPA, it is automatically complying with Section 6 of the Cybercrime Act 2015. So there is a lot of overlap of these provisions. So when you comply with one, you automatically. We also have the ISO 27000 series also, which is an international standard. So these are, you know, regulations or standards that when you comply with one, it reflects it amounts to compliance to other provisions as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. I mean, you've been calling out sections here and there. I when I grow up, I want to be like you. I mean, having all these sections offhand is really commendable. Thank you very much for that insight. Yes. So we're coming actually to the end of the session. So I just have one question for Dolapo, and then I will open up for other people who want to contribute to speak. So the last question that I have here is, Dolapo, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So what are some legal responsibilities of organizations regarding data protection and privacy beyond the regulatory compliance?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? What are some of the what?
Legal responsibilities here for organizations regarding data protection and privacy. Now, beyond regulatory compliance, beyond the law that we have been discussing here.
Okay. So when you take away the laws, then legal responsibility sort of like goes with it, right? Because legal responsibility is derived from the law. So there are other responsibilities, moral responsibility, ethical responsibilities, and business responsibilities. But when we say legal responsibilities, then that is derived from the law. But I think that I get where you are.
Yes, we also have standards here. We also have standards like Mrs. Chisom mentioned 27,001. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So so when you say legal responsibilities, all of those will come into place, right? Because standards, regulations, standards are like but I get your point. So let me just say that if you are trying to I think what you're trying to say is that besides just looking at please correct me if I am wrong. I just want to put it into perspective so that I'm also answering in the right way. Besides just complying with the NDPA, for example, or the GDPR, for example, what are the other standards or I don't want to use the word regulation. What are the other rules that you can look to make sure that you are protecting or ensuring data protection? Is that your question?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I think we've started from the very right place. 27,001. There's also 27017. That's the PIMS, right? The Privacy Management System. And there are several. So you can also so let me say that. So privacy and data protection is they are actually divided into like two, right? So privacy sort of like handles what are the standards, what are the rules, what are the laws that you need to comply with. Now to meet the second leg, data protection, that's the security arm, which means that you want to be looking at confidentiality, integrity, availability, integrity of the system especially. You will then, so there are several subsets of that. So that is where you now want to look at your ISMS, that's your 27,001, or your PIMS, that's your 27017, sometimes even BCMS. That's your business continuity. Because the reason for all of this is that if you have a secured system, so BCMS, for example, if you have a secured system, but because of NSAS protest, people are unable to use your platform, and then you are a database service provider for healthcare institutions. So because of NSAS protest, people are unable to use your platform. So a lot of patients are unable to retrieve their data to get the necessary health care that they need, or healthcare services that they need, right? So imagine what kind of catastrophe that would cause. You've done everything right. You've ensured that there are firewalls, there are antivirus systems, everything that you needed to do on the security level has been done, right? But to comply with one of the tenets of security, which is availability of data, right? you have not done that because one protest and then people are unable to sign in, or maybe because there's flooding, or because you're in the north and then Boko Haram rates the office next to your, God forbid, rates the office next to your office, or somebody was kidnapped on the way to the office, or things like that, right? Or all those other things happen, and your service is unable to go ahead to be provided. So to be able to forestall such things, you want to have like your BCMS in place. So you see that at the end of the day, there is an intersection between information security and data protection, because there's really no way. So another instance is to ensure that your security system is very solid. You also want to have threats intelligence analysis every now and then, so that you can identify. So, for example, one very important thing when you're carrying out, when you are implementing for your ISMS, that's in 7001, for instance, is you have to carry out a vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, right? So, and one of the this is something I'm very, very involved with. So, one of the things that you really find is that people tell you, oh, we are very secure, we use this, we do that. But you realize that when you start carrying out the penetration testing, for instance, you one small check and you're seeing people's login and password details and backend, right, being exposed on the server, right? Things like that. So for you to be able to ensure that you even, and at the end of the day, right, adopting all of this, following all of these standards and adopting all of these measures will still come back to ensuring that you even still comply with the law at the end of the day, because the law requires you to protect the personal data of the people that you process, and that also includes that it should be available to them when they need it, right? So to be able to do this, you may want to take more than just one standard, which is why you see that sometimes, as an organization, you are trying to sign up as a partner or third-party service provider of a big MNO, right? And they're asking you, oh, where's your ISMS certificate? Where's your SOC 2 certificate? Where's your this? Where's your that? All of these things at the end of the day will help you ascertain that the things that you claim to have promised your data subjects or your customers, you actually have done everything necessary to ensure that you fulfill that promise. So yes, when it comes to data protection, in summary, and privacy, you want to look at the laws, very good, but you also want to look at things from a holistic point of view to ensure that your compliance with the law is not threatened by another arm of things that you are not looking at. So you also want to consult those standards that I have mentioned. If you are in the financial sector, you also want to look at, say, the PCI DSS or PCI SSC generally, right? To be able to see, okay, what is this saying in terms of ensuring security and all of that. So yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, we have heard of the different standards and how they are supposed to be implemented, and also to be doing penetration testing, to make sure that your systems are secure. Thank you very much. So now I'll open the floor for contributions. I mean, I know we have some professionals here as well. Maybe you have something you really wanted to say that has been itching you. I mean, this is the time. After this, I will also open up the floor for questions. I already have one question pending. So this is the time for you to contribute. If you have anything you want to say, just kindly raise up your hand and I'll call you to speak. Okay, I wouldn't want to waste so much time here. If there's nobody, I'll just move to the question and answer session. Okay, all right. I'll just go to the question that I have here. So this question is from Imam. He's saying, in the event of a data breach, just like the National Identity Management Commission data breach, for instance, even though that is not substantiated, right? We don't know whether it is true or not. So, or civil legal disputes related to NDPA compliance, what steps should organizations take to mitigate risks and protect their interests? So, Mrs. Chisom, can you answer this? Mrs. Chisom, are you there? Okay. Mrs. Chisom, can anybody hear me? I hope it is not my network.
Yeah, I can hear you, Amina. I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. I think maybe she's not with us or she's having network issues. So since Dolapo is here, please can you help us answer this question?
I'm
Dolapo,
sorry,
are
what's the
you
question?
there? Okay, so Imam is saying in the event of a data breach or civil legal
Yes.
dispute related to NDPA compliance, what steps
Yes,
should
please.
organizations take to mitigate risks and protect their interests?
Oh, thank you. That's a very, very important question. So simply, the first thing to do is to ascertain the extent, the nature of the breach. That's the first thing to do. So you first of all want to carry out an analysis. So it's called an impact assessment, right, or a breach analysis, right? What that is going to do is to know, okay, these are the number or this is the number of data of personal data that has been breached. This is the category of data that has been breached as well. This is where the breach occurred, this is what caused it, and all of that. That's the first thing that you want to do. Actually, the first thing you want to do is identify the extent of the breach and where, and then plug it immediately. What that means is that you want to stop that channel immediately. It means shutting down the particular business, that is the particular service or product, to be able to ensure that it doesn't go ahead, it doesn't fester. You do that. Then when you do that, within 72 hours, depending on the policy as well, you need to. So why I say depending on the policy is that some people say 72 hours we inform just our direct customers and regulators. Some people say we inform just regulators. Some people will say if you have third-party partners, you want to inform them as well. Or what some people just do is they reach out to only the people whose data have affected, right? But that is necessary in terms of disclosure and is a regulatory or legal requirement. So once you are done identifying the extent of the breach, identifying what happened, and then you put in place measures to forestall its recurrence, you within 72 hours notify both the regulator and the data subject. Very, very important to inform your data subject as a matter of necessity, right? So when you do that, then you then carry out remediation activities. Of course, that would have commenced from the first date, anyways. That would include, oh, okay, why did this happen? Was it because our antivirus system was not strong enough? Was it because we had a weak link? Was it, again, in security, the humans are always the weakest link. So what happened? Was it that we did not have necessary role-based access controls in place? Was it that our people are not trained enough to understand this and all of that, all of that? So once you identify all of that, you then begin to remediate them. That might take you time, might take you 3 months, 6 months. You might need to categorize those things as well into high impact, severity level, high, low, medium. Say high, you have to do them immediately. Medium, you have to do them immediately after the high, and then low, you can put a longer time frame to it. But that is going to be a holistic measure to handling breach, data protection, and privacy breach.
Okay, beautiful. I mean, that was like a very detailed response. You should inform your data subject. Yeah, okay. I think we've not mentioned data subject. Can you just help us simply define who a data subject is?
All right, thanks. So data subject is an individual, a human being whose personal data is collected and processed by data processors and controllers. The reason I always like to emphasize human beings, individuals, is because a company's data, a company's RC number, is not personal data, right? So personal private data subjects are usually individual people with blood and souls and spirits, head, and all of that. That is who you call data subjects, not entities, not animals, not all of that. So any human being whose data, personal data, that is any information that can be used to identify you. And that's actually a very broad statement, right? Sometimes in some quarters, according to some theorists, would include things like even your driver's license, right? But for sure, there are court decisions that said that would include something like even your IP address, right? Especially if it is maybe it is a yeah. So your IP address, right, will be considered. Sorry, struggled a little bit. Will be considered as your personal information. So anything that can be used to
Oh,
identify you, your
yeah.
personal information, and then a data subject is the person that has that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so I'm not seeing any other questions or contributions. So I think we have all understood what we have been discussing so far, and then there are no questions. And I hope you've learned a lot today. I hope you have written down so many things in your notebooks. And thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you especially for our panelists. And it's so impactful. I mean, even me, I've learned a lot from you. So thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate the knowledge that you have shared. And thank you especially for taking out time to be a part of this. I will defer proceedings to my Oga Auditor.
Thank you very much, Amina, for hosting this wonderful panel section. Indeed, you're a wonderful host. And to our guest speakers, thank you very much for coming and for honoring our invitation. Without you, won't be here. So thank you very much for sharing those nuggets and very, very valuable in this time where people are getting it confused about the NDPA. To our participants, attendees, thank you very much for taking our time to be part of this. I hope you have been able to gain valuable knowledge from this webinar. Please do share your experience online on social media. You can tag us at SciSed HQ, and the socials of our speakers and their LinkedIn profile are also on the chat board in case you want to connect with them, in case you want to ask more questions. Probably you're shy, you don't want to ask here. You can reach out to them on X or on LinkedIn, all right, to ask your questions about your the Data Protection Act and regulation. So and also, like I said, don't forget to follow us at SciSed HQ. I will be having more series in regards to capacity building in different aspects of cybersecurity. So don't forget to stay tuned to our handles and also our pages, all right, for more valuable insights. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming in today. And I wish you a very productive week ahead. And bye for now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye.
Having us. Yeah. It's been an interesting session.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.